Okay, hello everyone and welcome to our webinar today. Thank you all for joining us and sorry to keep you waiting. We're just waiting for a few people to trickle in for the last moment or so. So we are going to kick off and make a start. So we're very excited to be joined here today by some expert panelists who will be talking to us about their experience in the real estate sector. My name is Jessica and I'm the course advisor here at the University of Manchester. I may have spoken to a few of you already about your sort of intentions to study with us over the coming months, but this is just a general opportunity for you to get involved in the conversation. So just a few housekeeping rules. Obviously, we are all working from home, so please excuse any sort of technical difficulties which we might have throughout the session. It's sort of a bit uncontrollable at the moment. This is just going to be sort of an informal conversation. So if at any point you have any questions that you'd like to ask the panel, do get involved. We'll ask them throughout the session and we'll also be answering them throughout the Q&A section. So you can just drop them in the Q&A box at the bottom or in the chat box if you'd like to speak publicly. So I'm just going to offer a little bit of sort of background about what this session will look like today. So obviously the MSc Real Estate is a university course. It's a postgraduate qualification, which we're offering in a blended learning style. So that means it's partly online and partly delivered via industry conferences, which you'll attend in person. So there are many different benefits of studying this course, from sort of meeting your academics, from developing those networks, and also learning all about the sort of content which our academics are offering. However, there is also many other career opportunities which this course can take you through. Today, we're joined by really contrasting sort of industry professionals that will talk about their experiences over the past year, industry trends that they're familiar with, and also the ways that they've got to the places that they are today. So I'm going to start off by handing over to our panelists. So Connor, perhaps you'd like to begin by introducing yourself a little bit and just sort of saying what it is you do day to day.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica. I currently work for Bruntwood Works, who are a commercial landlord in the Northwest, Yorkshire and Midlands, and I'm in their asset management team in Manchester. Asset management, for those that don't really know what that is, we currently, in my team, we manage about 20 commercial office assets, and the asset management involves, liaising with tenants or customers, as we call them, a lot of lease advisory work and sort of maintaining the properties to the standard that my client, my employer requires. As I said, I'm from Manchester, born and raised here, and now working here as well.
That's great, thank you, Connor. Trevor, you're also sort of a very sort of different industry within the sector. Perhaps you'd like to give a little bit of background on yourself.
Yeah, of course. Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Jessica. My name's Trevor Kearney. I'm a director within Savills. We're a FTSE 250 global real estate business. Hopefully, lots of you would have heard of us before. What do I do for Savills? I have kind of multiple roles within our business, I guess. The one that I am best known for is running our London office. That is, in effect, a super rich, super prime team dealing with sales above £5 million outside of prime central London. I'm also a founding director of Savills Sports and Entertainment. In a nutshell, our role there is to be able to give people within the sports, media, entertainment world, celebrity, dare I say, the opportunity to have one point of contact into Savills globally, so that we can look after their real estate needs, whatever it might be, from their own family homes to investments or holiday homes around the world. I also have a kind of chairman's role within our client services business too. So I'm kept incredibly busy. My focus is at the very top end of the residential markets. I've been with Savills for 6 years. I previously did a stint with our opposition, Knight Frank, for a couple of years. I was the youngest partner within their business at 25. I'm the youngest, or was the youngest director at Savills, when I kind of rejoined that business too. So a different route than you guys will be talking about, but I look forward to sharing more about what I do with you a little bit later on.
That's great, thank you, Trevor. And I'm sure our sort of attendees can already see the sort of differences in work which you guys are doing. So it's great to see that sort of variety as well. And Mark, it'd be really great just to have a quick introduction from you about your role on the course as well.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mark Shepherd. I'm the program leader for this program, which basically means I'm the academic lead. My background was in real estate practice in property valuation. I used to work for Avison Young, as they are now, although they weren't called that when I worked for them. I then moved into academia, but kept a private practice going for a number of years, primarily about property valuation. And you won't be surprised to learn that property valuation is the principal unit that I teach on the program, although corporate real estate, looking at real estate from the occupier's perspective, is also something that I'm very heavily involved in.
Thank you, Mark. So as you can all see, I've just launched a short poll on the screen just about what you're sort of looking for today. But do feel free to get in touch with us via email. We're just going to pop the email address in the chat box so that you can contact us today. We're always really interested in hearing people's motivations to sort of study with us. Also general sort of interest in the sector. That is also a great thing to feed back to us so we can sort of adapt our marketing material for you. So we're going to sort of begin with a little sort of general introductory question. So obviously Trevor and Connor have been great to sort of give us a brief introduction, but Connor, perhaps you'd like to introduce us to your current role, what you do day to day, and your role and responsibilities within your team.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So as I mentioned, my employer, they're primarily office space. They do have some retail as well, but office is what they specialize in asset class. My day-to-day, my primary roles and responsibilities mainly consist of liaising with our customers or tenants, as they commonly know. We're not allowed to call them tenants, so I apologise if I keep saying customers. And dealing with a lot of the lease advisory work, so that's your lease renewals, your rent reviews, and more recently with everything that's going on with COVID, there's been a lot of restructuring, a lot of difficult conversations with our customers about where they see their future in our buildings, and sort of maybe the lease terms they agreed years ago maybe aren't appropriate now, and they want to have that conversation. So that's sort of been what I've been doing the past 12 months, and really just getting experience in that. In addition, though, there's sort of the more general management of our properties as well, with your service charges, your maintenance of the property. And also looking at the future of the properties, like developing asset plans and redeveloping assets to meet customer needs, basically. In the portfolio which I work is the Greater Manchester portfolio, so the surrounding areas rather than the city centre. We're starting to see the movement where we're adding features and amenities that the city centre Grade A office space have had for years. So your bike stores, showers, gyms, stuff like that has now started to go into the suburban areas as well as the city centre. So my role is heavily based on building up those appraisals and rolling them out and ensuring they're successful.
Great, thank you. I mean, there's quite a few things there that I'm going to come back to in a second and pick back up on those. But first we'll hear a similar sort of question to Trevor. So your day-to-day, you already mentioned that you're very customer facing, obviously you work with lots of high-end clients. How does your role vary from Connor's, and sort of what do you sort of, what are your responsibilities day-to-day, shall we say?
Oh gosh, big question and very, very broad brush, I guess. What are my responsibilities? Let's look at the kind of main focus of my role, running the London office. Predominantly, I am still an estate agent. I am buying and selling homes and real estate assets for ultra high net worths. So that is probably 70% of my day-to-day running. But of course, what is that and how does that look? I look after a book of probably 30 sellers at any time, and a book of probably 40 or 50 buyers. And it's a matchmaking service. It's nothing more than that. It's working out the needs and the requirements of a buyer and literally matching it to one of the houses I'm selling. There is no great science in normal estate agency. Yes, I'm very privileged that it's at the very top end of the market, but no matter the price point or no matter the area in which you're working with, the discipline is actually very similar. And if I look at the other roles that I have, the sports and entertainment role, something like that, again, very, very similar. I'm taking the requirements from that person and we're trying to find the right home or investment, the right bit of real estate for them. And it is very customer focused. It is very customer facing. all of our clients, because of who they are and because of the worlds they're in and their wealth and their success and all of that kind of stuff, they are super demanding people. So they want us. There is a long-standing joke in my family and in our business that I haven't had a holiday for 16 years. And that's because you literally cannot, wherever we might go away, we love to ski and we go to Brazendale and we love doing that thing there. While I'm there, I will take 5-10 meetings during that week because there will be people there that want to see me, that want to discuss what we're doing back in London or anywhere else in the world. So we are a proactive team, but responsive to where our clients might be and what they might need at the time. And effectively, we are assisting them in buying or selling the best real estate in the world. As a nutshell of what my day-to-day is, it's just managing those processes.
I think that's quite fascinating because that's obviously the skills which you've developed over the years from sort of, obviously you didn't go to university, did you? You left school when you were quite young and you moved into those careers. Those skills are skills that you've built up yourself, and that's a confidence which you've learned from your work experience. And then Connor, from the opposite side, has then also, he's developed his skills through an academic qualification. And quite a lot of people who I talk to as well, they do discuss with me that they have a certain lack of confidence. They sort of want to sort of gain that professional stamp of approval on their skills and on their work experience. Connor, do you find that having studied the Masters in real estate, that sort of recognition that the university has provided you has helped to support you in your career?
Yeah, I mean, I think with any sort of academic study, the more you know about something, the more confidently you can talk about it and advise and come across confident, essentially. And I think that's definitely helped build the foundations for my career and the role I'm in now. But probably more in line with Trevor's experience, I think the experience and the interactions you have on the job basically are invaluable. You'll never learn that in a classroom. But as I said, the knowledge to go into that situation helps. Yeah,
definitely. And by sort of interacting with other professionals in similar sort of careers as yourself, that's also invaluable as well. So getting those opportunities to build those relationships. And Trevor, that's essentially what your job is as well, isn't it? You're building relationships with people. You're sort of creating that sort of partnership with people so that they trust you, they have that confidence in the service that you're offering. So it's a very sort of interesting way that you've explained it there, that customer facing role.
Yeah, it is. It is so relationship driven, especially, we're dealing with the 1% of the 1%. And 90% of my business comes through referral. Just picking up on what Connor said, I think he's exactly right. And one of the reasons that the course intrigues and excites me, and one of the reasons I'm so pleased to be here talking to you guys, is what you're offering is actually the best of both worlds. So the little bit of lack of experience in industry that Connor would have missed, the lack of academia that I would have missed, actually what you guys are being able to do by the nature of the way that Mark's running this course and the university's running this course is you can get a bit of both. That for me is the genius of it. And people that I've been talking to from what I'm learning from you guys is actually study and work. Look, you are getting what Connor's got and you're getting what I've got. That's going to create the future leaders of these businesses or their own businesses.
Definitely. And Mark, what do you think? How do you see the sort of development of your students from the day one of them sort of entering onto the course to when they leave the course at the end? Obviously, you have sort of 4 check-ins with them throughout the different industry conferences which the blended learning course offers. Do you see a progression in some of those students?
Absolutely. I mean, Trevor's really encapsulated one of the USPs of the program, which is we're very much aware that people who want to move into real estate or progress in real estate need experience as well as the knowledge. And also, I think within the units that we've developed, we're very conscious that there are lots of transferable or interpersonal skills that our students need to develop in addition to those sort of traditional, they need the knowledge, but they need to know, it's a very people-focused business, as Trevor has identified. And I think, one of the things that we find when we go out into practice is that's exactly what we need. We need to be able to be confident and so on. So within the program, there are opportunities within individual units to practice different skills like academic and professional writing, but also presentations, blogs, all sorts of things like that, all sorts of different ways of communicating. And I think the advantage of the conferences, of course, as well as the course itself, is that there's an opportunity for networking, for engaging with industry. And it's really nice because we do see students still growing and changing their confidence and their willingness to engage. And, you know, we can't, there is no substitute for practical experience, but I think one of the things we're conscious of is we try and make the content of the program based on real life scenarios to the extent that we can. So at least it doesn't come as a shock when, you know, people are engaging with the real world, if you like, not just academia. So I hope it's a mixture of both. Just one other small thing is that one advantage, which Trevor again alluded to, is that for an RICS qualification, you need a combination of academic study and professional experience. And you can undertake those both side by side if you're working in real estate. And therefore, the path to completion is potentially quicker than it would be in some other routes.
Thanks, Mark. That's great. But I think, yeah, especially as you said with the RICS, there's so many different pathways that people can go along, and that's another main reason why people obviously choose to come and study with us. But I think it'd be quite interesting as well. So as we're obviously living in a very turbulent world, there's been a lot of changes over the past year. I'm quite interested to hear from Trevor and Connor about how their experience, their sort of professional experience has changed over the past year. Because I think the industry is adapting to everything that's going on. We are sort of trying to adapt to the way that we are educating these sort of new professionals in the industry. And I'm just quite interested to see how your jobs have changed over the past year and any sort of trends which you've noticed. So I'm not sure who wants to kick off first, either Trevor or Connor, whoever should go. Perhaps Connor, would you like to go first? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind. Yeah, I was going to say my experience in the past 12 months might have been a little less glamorous than Trevor's with the office market. But I'd say that I've been working for Bruntwood for 2.5 years now, and the past 12 months have been the most challenging, but also the most rich in experience and my own development. I think one of the biggest trends, which not just myself, but probably everyone knows about, is obviously working from home. Is that the future? Isn't it? Is the big question. I think from back in March last year, yeah, everyone was fairly certain that working from home was going to be the new norm and the office was dead, as people were claiming in the media. And I think what we've seen is a kind of bit of a U-turn from that perspective, and more customers that I'm speaking to, whether that's, you know, the business owners or office managers, they're coming and they're saying it's actually just not working for them. The novelty's worn off. A lot of their staff are actually asking to come back to the office sooner rather than later. Even some of the larger companies out there, I think it was Google, came out the other day and said that they're just encouraging people to come back to the office, which is a stark contrast from last year when a lot of companies were saying employees could work from home forever. So that's been one of the most challenging conversations we've been having with our customers. And I guess they've started to review off the back of that how much office space they actually need. Are they going to go from a Monday to Friday model to a hybrid model, which I think most are opting for at the minute, which is spending part of the week in the office and come out, and the office space will be more of a collaborative area rather than a necessity. Well, off the back of that as well, I think one of the bigger trends that we've seen is this move towards, it was already happening pre-COVID, but the move away from the traditional landlord and tenant relationship. If for those that aren't aware, there was a moratorium put in place so that landlords couldn't evict tenants, and the usual remedies for rental arrears were taken away from them. And it's kind of forced a conversation between landlord and tenants and made them more of a, yeah, like I said, a collaborative approach, and made them more like business partners than landlord and tenant, which I think has just been positive. You know, we've had a lot of conversations with our customers that maybe we wouldn't have had previously. We've learned more about their businesses. They've learned more about us, how we operate. And I think that transparency it builds more trust and just helps the relationship into the future.
Definitely, and that's a relationship change that could benefit the industry massively. I mean, if there's a better relationship between tenants and landlords, then surely that's going to lead into sort of better business, as we've already talked about today, that building of relationships and having that confidence in your industry. Trevor, do you have anything to comment specifically about that, or would you like to talk a bit more about whether there's been any similar trends for you? Obviously, I imagine working from home looks a bit different for yourself.
Yes, it does. And a year ago, we went into this first lockdown. I said earlier that my business is built on relationships. It's about seeing people. It's about being in contact with them and doing all of that kind of stuff. And we were told that we weren't allowed to do it. So I locked myself in my study and thought, this is all over. How are we going to go about doing business, in this new way? And of course, are our clients, no matter their wealth, are they going to want to keep buying and selling houses? How's this going to affect them psychologically? And what are they going to be doing? Are they going to be harboring their wealth, or are they going to be wanting to spend more of it? So it was a really tricky time. Connor, so eloquently just said that the most rewarding but challenging time, 16, 17 years in, also my most challenging and rewarding time. So we had that first bit of lockdown where everybody was incredibly nervous of how's this going to work? Not only my team is now at home and our business is now working from home, but also we can't see our clients. We can't show houses. Guess what? To sell a house, you have to show it. You have to. This isn't a commercial decision. 99% of the time, this is it's a personal choice. It's desire and want rather than need. Well, you don't need to go and buy another £15 million, 25,000 square foot house. If only we did need that. So that was a real learning curve and difference. What it did show me as a trend was that all of our ultra high net worths that were living in cities wanted to get out to the country. We knew that we were going to be in this period for a sustained amount of time, and they wanted space around them. So actually very, very quickly, our markets were flying again, because everybody who we were looking after in London wanted to come out to Surrey and places like that and start buying our houses there. Within 2 weeks of lockdown, I had sold a house to a Russian client over Zoom. The owner had done a bit of a video tour for me. I sent it to them. We traded at £8 million within 2 weeks. And that was my first sign of going, okay, we might be okay. This thing might continue. And it did, and it did, and it did. And it snowballed to the extent that the prime housing sector in the country has increased by 8.8% in the last year, whereas it hadn't grown in the 14 years prior to that. So there has been a seismic change because of that. With regards to that home working thing, I think Connor's right. There is a blended model within it and between it. We will see that in our business. We won't necessarily be in the office as much as we needed or wanted to be, but actually we will be with clients, and that's the important thing for us.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been an adaptation in sort of the needs of clients, and I'm interested whether both of you got different ways that the trends could fluctuate after the pandemic. I mean, Trevor, for you, all of your work, people might not be interested in buying those houses in the countryside anymore. They might say, no, actually, I want my penthouse back in the city. And for Connor, yourself, you might have different relationships with different clients. For example, you might start working with co-working, those sort of collaborative working spaces and things like that. What do you think, Connor? Do you think once everyone starts returning to cities and start returning to office spaces, that there will be another big boom again, or do you think people will be away from offices for good now?
No, I think I mean, in Manchester, the take of office space was quite strong pre-COVID, and I anticipated going back to some sort of level. Quite interestingly, though, kind of similar but on a lesser scale to what Trevor said about customers moving out into the regions where they've got more space. We have seen that as well with office space. Maybe people that were based in the city centre realising that they don't need to be based in the city centre. If they're going to do a lot of virtual meetings and stuff, they can have satellite offices out in the wider areas. They don't need to commute as far. So there's that sort of trend emerging as well. But saying that, we are still seeing a lot of demand for office space in the city centre. It's just rather than a customer taking a huge 5,000 square foot floor, they might only need half of that because of the way they're going to work. It's going to be collaborative. They're going to come in, 2 days a week, but when they do come in, it's going to be for meaningful meetings where they're going to get a lot of results from them.
Yeah, definitely. And we're obviously here talking about two very specific sectors. Mark, I don't know if you have any other thoughts about the other sectors which we sort of aren't represented by our guest panelists. Maybe within like the valuation industry, is there anything sort of where you can see the trends adjusting to or changing back to after the pandemic is over soon, hopefully?
That's a really interesting question. Actually, something Connor was mentioning earlier about this transition from calling occupiers tenants to calling them customers is very much representative of that changing dynamic and relationship between occupiers and the owners and investors in the space. And to be fair, I think Bruntwood were probably quite forward thinking in this area. We're quite well known before it became fashionable as a sort of flexible landlord. But having said that, I think this is a trend that's only going to continue. Moving down the valuation front, Trevor mentioned something interestingly about the problems with clients being able to go and view property, and valuers have been having exactly the same problem. That normally to value a property, you go there, you'd see it, and yes, you could do that virtually, but you have to be pretty careful. After all, if the person who owns the property is showing you around, quite understandably, they're going to show you the best bits, and you have to be a little bit, what should we say, a little bit cautious about the information you might get that way. But I think it's also about uncertainty. We've talked about a number of different sectors where, for example, at the start of the pandemic, people were thinking that working from home was going to be the thing, and now we seem to be moving to more of a flexible approach. And also use of offices. So the challenge there, of course, is, if you were valuing offices at the beginning of the pandemic where there were relatively few transactions and there was this perception that the market was going to change significantly, there was a lot of what we call material uncertainty there caused by the fact that there weren't enough transactions or confidence of what the future would hold. But it's interesting that if you take other sectors like industrial, for example, which was always a bit of a Cinderella sector, has become much more prominent, particularly warehousing and logistics, just because of the way that we've moved from, face-to-face retailing to online. So I guess the point is that one of the interesting things from our point of view is that from a course perspective, I think very much what Connor was saying about that landlord and tenant relationship is our awareness that we have to explore how you add value from both the landlord's but also the tenant's point of view or the occupier's point of view. That perhaps traditionally as a real estate profession, we've been characterized as being very focused on how do we make money from real estate, and clearly that's what we should be doing for our clients. But it's also about recognizing that if we can add value for our customers, our clients, our occupiers, then that is mutually beneficial, and perhaps something that we've become, has come into sharp relief as a result of COVID.
No, definitely. That was a wonderful overview, Mark. Thank you. And it's a shame we haven't been able to have a sort of look at the valuation sector in as much detail during this session, but thank you for that. So I think one final thing that I'd like to turn away now is to your two, now while we've got you here, and I'm going to invite any questions from our audience here if there's anything specific. But Trevor, perhaps you'd just like to briefly talk about how you got to where you are today. A lot of our sort of students are interested in hearing about the career prospects available to them. And obviously, although you didn't firsthand take the course, it's interesting to see the different pathways which are available to a professional within this industry.
Yeah, of course. I think that anybody, looking at this course and what I've seen of it, genuinely, it seems amazing. And what Mark is creating there, I think it's giving people the best possible foundation for a career in real estate. Now, I have a social media channel on Instagram called @SuperPrimeSurrey, and the amount of people that come and approach me there asking for advice on a route into real estate. What I always say to them is real estate isn't just what I'm doing, selling big shiny houses. It isn't just what Connor's doing. As Savills, we have something like 300 service sectors in real estate. And I think that, you know, getting into a course like yours enables people to learn about, in smaller sections, but it allows them to learn about all different parts of the industry, and then somebody will find their route to it. I was really lucky that as a non-academic, I'm relatively good at chatting and selling things and doing that piece and building relationships with people. So therefore, for me, you know, core estate agency was a really obvious plan. And the route that I took was starting at a small independent agency at 17. I'd just passed my driving test. Didn't have a car, by the way, but estate agents got cars and mobile phones, and they were the really cool things to have at 17, 17 years ago kind of thing. So I wanted both of those. So I kind of came into the industry by accident, but it needs to be more than that to sit in the seat that I sit in now, of course. But I started in a small independent agency and learned the fundamentals of this business. And these are the fundamentals that somebody will learn through your course. And for me, that gave me the foundation of understanding estate agency and understanding the world of property. Then I was lucky enough to, kind of climb through the company that I was in. Savills were then opening a flagship office in Cobham. Chelsea Football Club had just moved their training ground to Cobham. I was in that mix of people. I was an obvious fit to go in and be the kind of guy that opened the front door and swept the front step, having begged for a job, literally. But I got into then a very big business that understands people. And, Savills' kind of strapline is, connecting people to property. And that's what we do well. So despite not taking an academic route, my career was still all about learning. I had to learn to do different things, to manage different things within the industry and within the sector I was working in order to get better at them. My advice to anybody is have great leaders and mentors. In Mark, you have that in your course. In my industry, I had that, in my peers. So anybody that's thinking about, joining a real estate business in whatever faction that they are, make sure you are doing it with people that are interested in you, will teach you and will help you learn. That's why, again, the course appeals to me, because you are giving people those fundamentals and the foundations that they need in order to do so. But my business was all about learning on the job, and it's something that's done well for me. But you have to spend all of that other time learning and researching almost the academic side of it in your own time. I like what you're doing here because you're doing the best of both. I wish I had the opportunity, frankly, when I'd started an agency, to have done this at the same time. I think you then come out so much more grounded and rounded in what you're doing.
That's a very flattering sort of overview, Trevor. But it sounds like it's been a really interesting pathway for you as well. And you've gone for this sort of the hustle approach. So you've worked your way up, you've built those relationships, and you've developed your professional network. Connor, I'm interested to see now, as someone who has had the opportunities that Trevor's so kindly praised, how has that benefited you, and how is that taking you to where you are today?
Yeah, so in contrast to Trevor, when I was 17, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I went off to uni and did a history degree initially, and then took a year out, still not quite sure. It was only after conversations with friends, family, that I kind of got an interest in real estate and started to look at options, which led me to the course at Manchester, which was a great choice for me, and I've got a lot of experience from it. But I think another thing which Trevor alluded to is real estate isn't just one service or one sector. There's so many options for you. And I found this when I first did the course, because I went into the course thinking I was going to do development. I wanted to be a development surveyor. I wanted to build buildings. I wanted to see big shiny things in front of me in the city centre. But after doing the course and speaking with Bruntwood, who I work for now, I obviously started working in asset management, which I absolutely love. And I think the key thing that you will get from this course, apart from the knowledge, is also an idea of which route you wish to go down. You'll get a feel for what suits you the best and where your interests actually lie. I know from one of the modules we did, or I did at the at University of Manchester was like where you like a real-time scenario where you act for a client, and you kind of gives you that insight into doing it in practice, and that helped me decide which path I wish to take as well.
Great, and sort of being surrounded as well by other people in similar situations as yourself upon the course, which really does broaden those horizons. I mean, Connor was part of our face-to-face cohort, so as part of the Real Estate and Development Masters, which is taking place. However, with our blended learning course, it's a sort of great opportunity to meet people from all different sectors. So we do really have a range of different professionals joining us. We have CEOs from companies, we have fresh graduates just out of university started to do their course. We have sort of people age range from sort of 23 to 65, I think, is our headline information. So it is really very varied, but it is all about developing that network and building that experience for yourself. So it's been a really interesting conversation. Actually, we've covered quite a few different topics of discussion here, so I think we'll sort of come to an end here and leave that for today. Is there anything else, Mark, that you'd like to add just before we close off, or are you happy with leaving us there?
I think that's great. It's been really helpful, and I think it's absolutely true that to get ahead in real estate, you need a combination of an understanding of the basics and those key transferable skills that mean that you have, I think, a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit that will drive you to move the business forward as well, because that's what employers are looking for. So I hope we encourage both.
Great. Well, thank you very much to everyone for joining us today. And thank you, Trevor and Connor, for taking your time to talk to us about your personal and professional experience over the years. And I really wish you both the best of luck in sort of the future endeavours. I hope that the sector does bounce back if it needs to, or if it continues to stay where it is for those things that are working quite successfully at the moment. But thank you very much, everyone, for joining us, and have a lovely rest of the day. Thank you. Goodbye.